These two fake HOA officers thought they could intimidate my elderly father on his own porch, but they had no idea I was home, and I am a professional mixed martial artist. Before we get started, let me know which country you're watching from in the comments. I'm curious how far this story will spread. This all began about a week earlier. My father purchased this modest home after retiring. Quiet, peaceful, a simple house with a porch he absolutely adores. And we're not part of any HOA association. Our property isn't even within their designated boundaries. But power-hungry individuals don't require logic. They need targets. Enter Patricia Wells, the HOA president, a woman whose personality could sour fresh cream. She decided my father's home damaged the neighborhood appearance because his porch railing wasn't the precise shade of beige she demanded everyone use. Then she started sending threats, printed letters filled with fabricated regulations and imaginary penalties. Dad dismissed them politely. That only made her more irrational. She dispatched her wannabe enforcer, Craig Patterson, self-appointed HOA officer, wearing a plastic badge and a vest you could purchase online for $19.95. He marched right up the porch like he owned a property. "Sir, you are violating multiple HOA codes. Failure to cooperate will lead to immediate measures." Dad just looked at him, blinking slowly. "Son, this isn't HOA territory." Craig didn't care. He intensified his approach, threatened financial penalties, threatened official citations, even claimed my father's home could be temporarily taken for mandatory improvements. Improvements, that's what he called it. Dad finally told him to depart before he humiliated himself further. That humiliation must have stung, because the next morning Dad discovered a bright orange notice stuck to the porch. "Mandatory inspection, property non-compliance," signed by HOA Officer Patterson. Dad called it what it was, garbage. He crumbled it and discarded it. Patricia didn't appreciate that either, so she escalated. 2 days later, my security camera captured something alarming. Craig and another fake HOA officer attempting to peer into my father's windows, whispering, gesturing, taking photographs like they were constructing a legal case. At one point, Craig said on camera, "If he doesn't open up today, we enter forcibly." I felt my teeth clench. Dad's 72. He minds his own affairs. He doesn't disturb anyone. And these fools believed they could bully him. Not happening. The next afternoon, the day everything turned chaotic, Dad was on the porch drinking lemonade when the two fake HOA officers marched up the walkway again. They didn't knock. They didn't identify themselves. They tried to push the door open like they possessed actual authority. That's when I stepped into the hallway, observing through the slightly open door as Craig reached for the handle a second time. And light as I tightened my grip on the doorknob, prepared to swing it open, I heard Dad say the one phrase that informed me circumstances were about to erupt. "Gentlemen, this represents your last caution." I stepped out onto the porch, closing the door softly behind me, not slamming it, not stomping out. This calm, intentional, controlled. Craig and Marcus, the two fake HOA officers, turned toward me like they'd been anticipating a reason to behave tough. And man, they selected the incorrect reason. "Kid," Craig barked, puffing at his chest, "move aside. We're accessing the property for inspection." I raised an eyebrow. "You do understand," I said slowly, "that this residence isn't in your HOA, not even your postal code?" Marcus scoffed. "Everything within a 1-mile radius falls under our jurisdiction." I smiled. "Oh man, you genuinely think that?" Dad remained seated in his porch chair, holding his glass like he was viewing a wildlife documentary.
I stepped forward, blocking the entrance again. "You're not coming inside," I said. Craig's eyes twitched. The kind of twitch a man experiences when he realizes he's just been refused for the initial time in his pathetic adult existence. He didn't handle it well. "What did you say?" he snapped. "I said," I repeated, "you're not entering my father's home." Craig didn't think, didn't breathe, didn't blink. He reached behind his back, pulled out a cheap aluminum baton, snapped it open, and charged directly at me.
Dad didn't move, didn't shout, didn't warn me. He didn't need to, because the moment Craig's foot touched the bottom porch step, the security camera chimed. The entire incident was recorded. Craig swung wide, an angry, messy arc, intended to frighten more than connect properly. But he had no idea the idiot was swinging at a professional fighter. My body reacted before my brain required instruction. I stepped inside the arc, trapped his wrist with my left hand, and twisted forcefully. Crack. The sound reverberated like a broken tree limb. Craig dropped the baton immediately, screaming, collapsing to one knee while clutching an arm that now bent very, very incorrectly. Marcus froze and then panicked exactly how I anticipated. He lunged too, no weapon, just desperate momentum and a foolish yell. I sidestepped, grabbed the back of his vest, pulled. He face-planted into the porch board so hard the security camera captured the impact. He groaned and curled up, grasping his ribs. Dad raised his glass. "Told you, fellas, my son's the one you don't want to encounter." Craig tried to crawl away. Literally crawl, dragging his damaged arm across the porch. "Remain down," I said. He didn't listen. He attempted to stand. I placed a boot on his shoulder, not forcefully, just sufficiently to keep him grounded. "You're finished," I said quietly, and the cameras witnessed everything. His eyes shot to the security camera, blinking like a red admission light. "No, erase it, erase it." "No," Dad said. "We're transmitting it right now." A voice called from across the lawn. "Hey, is everything all right over there?" It was Mrs. Jenkins, our elderly neighbor, standing on her porch with her phone raised. The moment she saw Craig's broken arm and Marcus curled up, panting, she didn't hesitate. She dialed. "I'm contacting Sheriff Davis." "Those two aren't officers," Marcus groaned. "Oh no, not Davis." A few minutes later, sirens were already faint in the distance. I crossed my arms. "You boys," I said, "are about to have a tremendously awful day." And the truth was, it was going to be even worse for them. If this neighborhood story has captured your interest, please like and subscribe, because what follows becomes even more compelling. The sirens grew louder. Craig's eyes widened like a man observing his own career, or whatever fantasy he imagined he possessed, go up in smoke. Marcus curled tighter on the porch, wheezing through injured ribs. Two sheriff vehicles pulled into the driveway, lights flashing red and blue across the yard. Sheriff Ben Davis stepped out first, adjusting his hat and surveying the scene like it was the most ridiculous situation he'd encountered all month. "What in the county fried nonsense occurred here?" Davis asked. Mrs. Jenkins pointed from her property. "They caused it. Fake officers tried to assault the young man." Davis walked past me, then past Dad, and knelt beside Craig. He didn't even conceal the frustration. "Well, examine this disaster." Craig whimpered, clutching his twisted arm. "Sheriff, he attacked me." Davis raised an eyebrow. "Son, your arm is pointed toward Chicago, and your shoulder's aiming at Detroit. That isn't self-defense positioning. That's, I got dismantled like cheap furniture." Dad chuckled. Davis turned to me. "You made physical contact with these individuals?" They charged me. Security camera captured everything. Dad pointed a thumb toward the doorbell camera. "It's saved to cloud storage. High-definition foolishness." Davis sighed. "Display it." I accessed the footage. Craig attacking with the baton, Marcus lunging like an irate child. The takedown, the crack, the faceplant, the complete spectacle. Davis watched the final moments,
then looked at Craig and Marcus with the expression of a man mentally completing arrest forms. "Well, that resolves that. Both of you, hands where I can observe them." Craig tried to lift his broken arm and screamed. Davis didn't flinch. "You can scream all you desire. You still get restrained." Deputy Rodriguez cuffed Marcus first, who complained the entire time. Craig got cuffed with his functional hand and a sling fastened from a towel that Dad provided. Then Davis's radio crackled. "Sheriff, be advised. HOA President Patricia Wells is approaching your position." Dad groaned. "Oh man, here comes the circus wagon."
A dark SUV sped up the road and screeched to a halt. Patricia Wells jumped out. Heels, blazer, clipboard, the complete angry executive starter kit. She pointed at me. "Arrest him. He assaulted my personnel." Davis stared at her like she just spoke an alien language. "Your what?" "My personnel," she repeated. "I dispatched them to enforce HOA compliance." Davis rubbed his forehead. "Patricia, you don't have personnel. You have volunteers, and they just committed assault, impersonation, attempted breaking and entering, harassment, and approximately 7 other violations I lack time to enumerate." Her mouth fell open. "That is not how the HOA regulations read. Lady, your HOA regulations couldn't override a big sale permit." Craig whimpered. "Patricia, do something." She pointed at me again. "You're all going to regret this." Davis interrupted her. "You're done." He stepped forward. "Patricia Wells, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit assault, ordering illegal enforcement operations, and abuse of HOA power." Her jaw dropped. Then she actually attempted to flee. Rodriguez caught her by the elbow before she covered 10 feet. Dad clapped what a Doris Twinlive tried to escape. Adds flavor. They escorted her to the patrol car while she shouted legal gibberish that meant nothing. Davis turned back to me. "You're cleared. Self-defense, professional restraint." 1 week later, the investigation concluded rapidly. Creda was hospitalized with a fractured forearm and bruised ribs, then charged with felony assault, impersonating an officer, and attempted forced entry. Sentenced to 3 years. Marcus received 18 months for assisting the assault. Patricia got 4 years for conspiracy, harassment, and misuse of HOA authority. And that's how 2 fake community officers and their power-intoxicated president discovered you don't threaten a man's father. Not when his son answers the door. But what about the other families they targeted? The investigation uncovered this wasn't an isolated incident. Several neighbors came forward with similar harassment stories once news spread. One young family was pressured into expensive, unnecessary renovations. An elderly widow was threatened with liens for minor violations. The pattern of abuse ran much deeper than we initially realized. The district attorney expanded the probe, revealing systematic intimidation of residents who questioned the association's authority. And the most shocking discovery? Patricia had connections with local officials who ignored her operations. But that's content for another video. If you want to see how we exposed the entire corrupt network and restored our community, ensure you're following this channel. If this account of confronting corrupt authority resonated with you, please support our channel by liking this video and subscribing to Winds of Thought for more authentic stories that deserve attention.